Hi friends, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to go on a card making adventure, and I know it's epically long. It's a long video, but we're gonna have fun. We're gonna do a lot of techniques and hopefully share a few laughs and enjoy this holiday time together. This video is brought to you by topflightstamps.com. That's where I got the stamps and the stencils that I'm using today. Be sure to check them out and check out the coupon code in the video description so you can save some money on your order. They find the coolest, most unusual stamps all over the world and bring them back to us here in the United States. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to share another use for the Santa boot stencil that I used in this card. Just make sure your kids are out of the room before you listen to that. Without further ado, because this video is super long, let's get into our first video and have some crafty fun. For this card, we're going to do some fun techniques, and we're going to work with texture paste and also some other fun little additives. And I've got everything right here ready to go. And this is actually, it might look a little complex, but it's one of those cards that once you've made one, you could easily make, you know, a dozen in just a little bit more time. There's a lot of dry time with this project, but that's really where a lot of the time gets eaten up. So we're going to start off with this stencil from Visible Image. It looks like Santa Claus boots. And I'm also using a sentiment from this Craft Emotions set. I used it in a card recently, and I've used it the last couple of years. It's on sale right now at Top Flight Stamps, so check it out if you are looking for some classic sentiments to put on your cards. I just like to have like a messy tray here because we're going to want it because we're going to use some messy supplies. First thing we're going to use is embossing paste, and basically if you don't have this, save yourself some money, go to the hardware store, get a tube of latex caulking. You can usually find it at the dollar store even, and it will be essentially the same thing. This one's the Pearlescent Dreamweaver paste. We're going to add glitter and stuff to this, so just white latex caulking will work just fine if you don't have embossing paste or texture paste or modeling paste. Any sort of white paste like that is going to work just fine. I also recommend you have a little bit of tape. That could be washi tape or masking tape, just something to keep your stencil in place. Now the surface we're going to work on is a piece of craft cardstock. Now I've embossed this already, and it's got some schmutz on it, but don't worry because you know what I liked better? I did one of these backgrounds. I'm going to show it to you. I have it prepared because this is not going to dry in the time for us to do our card, so I'll need to grab the dried one. I liked it when I inked it with an ink pad first, rather than just keeping it plain like I did on this card, so we're going to ink our cardstock before we begin. So you'll want to have a scrap of paper to do that on. And I'm just using a foam style ink pad. You could use the Prism ink pads that Top Flight sells. They're a very similar spongy pad. I have this old set of Whispers pads that I got ages ago at AC Moore, and I really like it because of the style of the pad. I can do direct to paper blending. I don't need to get out a foam tool. It's just the perfect density, and I just refill it with any dye-based reinkers. Works just fine. I use like Stampin' Up! Reinkers or Memento reinkers. It seems to work just fine on this. So you just want to get that wood grain texture because I want this to look like snowy boots on a floor in your house, basically. I am not, this generally, I think if you wanted a really good looking, you know, like the grooves between the planks being darker, you'd do this side. However, I think because we're going to use a stencil and texture paste, if we use this side where we have these big, you know, recessed areas, or I should say embossed areas, I think it would hinder the stencil, so I'm using the area that's got a little bit flatter. So I'm using, I think it's probably the back side of the folder, honestly. Alright, so we're going to set our stencil on top. And my paper is cut 5.5 by 5.5, so I just took a regular piece of cardstock and cut it in half and then trimmed off the excess, so I had two 5.5 panels. So you can make two cards from a regular piece of cardstock. The embossing folder I used is a Sizzix 3D embossing folder, so I don't like to use super thick paper with those. They can tend to crack. And this is just a layer. You don't, even though we're using the texture paste, you don't need a really thick layer, a thick paper for this. Alright, so I've got this pretty much centered up onto my panel, and then I'm just going to take my paste and I'm going to take a palette knife. Now you can get these spatulas that come for this, but a lot of times they don't fit in the jar. So I like an artist's palette knife. It works really well. I can get it in there and I can scrape the rest back. And depending on how thick you want it, you can scrape it right up against the stencil and get a thinner application, or you can kind of slather it on thicker and get a thicker relief there, which is what I want to do because I want to stick some stuff down into it. So I don't want to, so I want some, you know, I want some thickness there that will grab it. Now this is going to take about 45 minutes to dry. This would be a good thing to actually leave overnight. I'm just going to, I'm not even trying to scrape it back to the stencil. I'm just applying a thick coat here. Okay. Scrape the rest back in. Then you can actually kind of peek under there, got a nice thick. Now look how much I have on there. That's a pretty thick amount, okay? It's because it needs to grab the embellishments. Now, to get the excess off of here, because I have a plan for that too, I'm gonna bring my scrap paper over, and get my spatula again, and scrape off the extra. And then I'm gonna take some of that and put it on the edges of my card, just kind of slathered on there. Because I don't know, I just like that frame. You don't have to do that, but I'm gonna mat this on a red panel, and I think that's kind of snowy frame's gonna look really pretty. Now I'm gonna have a sentiment that goes across there, and I'm gonna have an embellishment down here. So I'm just gonna kind of keep that in mind as I am applying my snow. And the messier the better, I think. Now even though we re-inked this panel, the ink is not getting into the snow, which I was kind of worried about at first, but it was fine, so that's good. Now any extra that you have, you can put back in the jar. So I mean, this would be a benefit over using like a tube caulking, just because you can scrape it back in the jar, and you kind of want to, because that stuff can get kind of pricey. But you can always find a little jar to keep stuff in. I will say this Dreamweaver paste, I've had it for a few years and it's not gone dry on me, so that's really nice. Right, and then to clean this, you can just, you can spray it and wipe it off, which I'll probably do because I don't feel like going back up and washing it again. Or you can just kind of like plop it in a bucket of water and so you can clean it. You just don't want to leave any chunks on there. You don't have to have it spick and span, but just get the chunks off. I hope that makes sense. I was looking at the stencil and I was designing the project and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, you know, this is so big, how do I use it on a card? And I've seen like people do like, never mind, I'm not going to say that because there could be kids listening. But anyway, I didn't know what I would do with such a large stencil on this project. So as long as you got it pretty much mostly wiped off, you're good to store that back in your package once it's dry. Okay, I'm just going to put that aside. Now you're going to want a tray or a scrap of paper, something, maybe a piece of newspaper to work on because it is going to get a little messy. And if you're making a bunch of these, it's really handy to have a dry tray like this for your messiness stuff so you can reuse all the supplies. So like if you have glitter or anything that goes astray, it's not going to go to waste. So I've got my Santa feet there. I'm going to take these are Brie or Reese texture pebbles, but they're the same as the Prima ones. I'm not going to use this many, but I'm just going to kind of drop them in the snow, and I've got a couple different sizes. I've got a bigger size, but I don't think it would stick very well. These are going to be like snowballs, and I'm just kind of dropping them into the paste, and you can give them a little push to help them stick. And I start with my biggest embellishments first, or my biggest inclusions first. Because it's easier if you do that. Go your bigs, middles, littles, and then like the fine glitter at the end. Well, like I say, I'm going to use all of that. Alright, so then I just kind of like roll the little snowballs up to the closest thing and just kind of get it to stick into the paste. You might lose one or two in the mail, but I won't worry about it too much. Can shake it around a little bit, and if you get a bunch onto the into the tray, you can pour them right back. So that's why I recommend having a tray, and that could be like even like you could save out a takeout food, like one of those bento boxes. Those will work really good for that. And now we're going to do our medium-sized things. I'm going to cap that up so I don't spill it. Just shake on a little bit of this. These are like the little teeny tiny page pebbles, I think they're called. Texture pebbles. Shake off the excess. Then I'm going to do some large flake iridescent glitter. So this is just basically clear glitter. This is by Arteza. And I really want that to stick into the snow. I just want to get that iridescent snowy look. This is a really simple card, so so I want, like, kind of want to fancy it up as much as I can. And then I'm just going to shake it around a bit to make sure it's got purchase. All those big flakes have something to stick onto. And I can put the rest of the stuff back on. Oh, that's pretty. Nice sparkle. And then I'm going to use this miserable tool. This is the, this thing makes such a mess. I'm not going to lie. It is a glitter duster, the Tim Holtz or Stampers Anonymous glitter duster. Oh, I had to have this thing when it came out. This thing makes such a mess. Keep the spout close to your project and that will eliminate some of the mess. But it does give you a lovely little light coating. It's good for, like, if you Mod Podge ornaments, I think, but man, oh man. You can make a mess. You don't want to be holding it way back and spraying for all you're worth, or you're going to be, you know, covered in glitter for the next 4 Christmases. All right, so then that just needs to be set aside to dry. And through the magic of YouTube, I've got my dried piece right here. And we are going to start putting things together. Now, I like to actually get this onto my card, so I'm going to adhere it onto this red card first. And I think it's easier if you put the adhesive onto the, not on the back of that, because you don't want to smush that down. So I'm actually going to take a 6x12 piece of white cardstock. This is the heavyweight from Joann's. They sell the 12x12 packs of white. I don't know if they have 12x12 in other colors, but they have the, but they have it in white, and they have 8.5x11 and a few quite a few colors actually in assortment packs. And adhere this down. I'm giving it a good amount of adhesive just because it's got to, you know, it's got to be the foundation for that card that's going to be a little bit on the heavy side. Let's center that up. This is a top fold card, by the way. You could do a side fold if you prefer. And then when I put this down, so the bottom layer, it's a 6x6 card. It's a 12 by 6 inch piece of cardstock folded in half. This is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, so I could get 4 panels from one sheet of 12 by 12 red cardstock. And then the craft cardstock, obviously I could get 2 from an 8.5 by 11, or, you know, I could get 4 from a 12 by 12. So it just depends on what you have for cardstock lying around. You can make the best use of your supplies, especially at Christmas time, because you want to do a lot of those bulk crafting at Christmas, right? You want to make you don't want to just make one-off Christmas cards. You want to make a bunch. At least I do when I'm doing it. All right, I'm going to press that down. This, I did this one probably about 2 hours ago, so it's plenty dry. You might have a few things flake off. Don't worry about that. You might have a few of the little large glitter pieces flake off. Now that on its own I think is really pretty, but I want to spruce it up a bit. So I just stamped Season's Greetings and embossed it on some white cardstock and then matted it on that same red. And I'm going to use some foam squares to attach it down to my card. These are the infamous yellow-backed foam squares. my OG peeps know all about. I still have them. They multiply. It's crazy. It's the miracle foam square. And they're really the best too. They came in like this, if you don't know, if you're new here, they came in these 3D puzzles my kids used to do when they were little. Now my kids are like juniors and seniors in high school now. But when they were little, they would get these 3D puzzles, and it was basically like a paper toile type project, and you would build up these scenes. And they always there was always way more foam squares than you needed for the project. And so I would take the extras and I would use them for my crafting. And they don't, oh shoot, that's a little crooked. Maybe I can, oh yes, I think I can move it. And they don't seem to fall off and dry out like the scrapbook ones. So so I just really enjoy using them. So there's our sentiment. And then for an embellishment, what I did was I just used an office hole punch to make a few berries. And then I had this little twig and pine cone branch, and I thought, oh, I'll just make a little, what do you call it? Embellishment. Oh boy, friends. I'll make an embellishment with these guys. And so this pine cone and twig, it's one die. So I cut it out of light green, dark green, And then I just cut the ends out of brown, and I'm going to ink this up with that same brown ink pad. Might have to do that on a piece of paper, because I really want to get it brown. I want it darker than the Santa floor there. There we go, and then I'll just snip that off. We're going to glue these together. Which one do I want on the back? I did the light on the back on the other one, so I think I'll do the dark first, just for something different, so you can compare and you can see what you like best. These little glue applicators are wonderful. They're from the Dollar Tree. They're just Elmer's. And I did refill this one, which I think is a very false economy, because I had to use like a waste of pipette to get some glue to fill that with. But that's why I bought it. I bought it with the intention to refill these as I used them up, but I tried that the other day and that was very difficult. Ooh, it's very thick there. Probably should have left a little bit more space, but that'll give us some dimension. I think on a card it's going to be fine. Now I'm going to offset this one a little bit. You could cut the pine cones off, the green pine cones, if you want to, if you're worried they're going to look weird, but I think they might look like a little drop shadow, so I'm just going to leave them. I'm just going to offset that just a little bit. Then, where'd my scissors go? Oh, there they are. Oh boy, if I zoom my camera out, man, this table is such a mess right now, and I haven't designed the second card from this video yet, so it's gonna get even. I actually gotta pick up this mess before I even attempt to design my other Santa card, because I don't have any space to work. Please tell me I'm not the only one that like backs herself into like a teeny tiny little spot to craft with. Hopefully I'm not alone. And then I'm going to put the little berries down. Oh, a good place for berries or wherever you've gotten a glue smudge, so that you can hide your messiness. Put that there. Oh, I think someone's starting to play piano upstairs. We better wrap this up quickly. Let's see, where do I want that other one? Oh, how about over here? It's so easy when you have a mistake on your card, because then it's like, oh, that's where I put the embellishment, you know? When you've got a pristine area, it's like, well, I can put it anywhere, then it gets tricky. It's almost like you let nature decide where your embellishments are going to go. All right, and now, just for a final little touch on this, I'm going to take this little glitter glue stuff, and I'm just going to, you could use stickles, you could use a little glue and a sprinkling of glitter. I'm just going to give those berries a little bit of glitz. And there is our finished Santa boot card. I think that's so adorable. And honestly, you do all the ink, you do all the embossing, do all the inking, do all the texture paste, do that in an assembly line format, and you can get a lot done in a little time, and it looks fantastic. Now I'm going to show you these side by side. This one does not have the inked background. I think it's still pretty if you want to save that step. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And then I also had the wood going upright, up and down. And this one I had the wood going side to side. You know, you could choose whatever you like best. Let me know what you think it looks best in the comments below. And in just a second, we're going to start our next card. In our other card today, we are going to make this cool Yule card with a ho 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 happy Santa looking awfully snazzy in his shades. And this is really fun. We're going to do some alcohol marker coloring techniques, some stenciling, and just some kind of fun blingy stuff with some glitter. Glitter that will get everywhere if you are not careful, because we're going to use the glitter sprayer again. So we're going to have some fun. We're going to start off by stamping this card by Visible Image, ho ho ho. And we are going to use Nina cardstock. You can use whatever you want. Whatever you like to color with is going to be fine. And of course, if you don't have alcohol markers, you can color with whatever medium you like. Just make sure you use an ink that's appropriate. I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I know that's not going to smear with my alcohol markers. And here's a little tip for you. Well, one tip I share all the time. Whenever you're going to do any masking and you cut your mask, save it, okay? And then you can use it every time you go to use that stamp set. Now I have put the hat and the beard, which are two separate sets in this stamp set. They're two separate stamps rather. I've put them on a block together, and I'm going to ink that up. Now this is a lot of area to stamp at once. This is a lot of stamp. So you run the risk when you do stamp something all at once like this. Well, the bonus is you keep it together, right? You keep it in the same spot, as like if you're making multiple cards and you're doing masking, it, you know, saves you some work there. But the downside is sometimes it's hard to get a good impression. So what I found works really well for these types of stamps are the really cheap magnetic photo frames you can get at like dollar stores and stuff. So like this had a magnet on it at one point. You could put your photo in there. It's just basically thin plexiglass. This works great because I can then give it press, you know, give it a good press while I'm working, and it will I can make sure everything's going to come in contact. Now, if you used a stamp positioner like a Misty or one of those other hinged platform stamp positioners, I'm sure, you know, you could just restamp and do that, but this works well for me, so this is what I do. Alright, I think we've made a pretty good connection everywhere. And it's also helpful if you're stamping in a you know, maybe a table that's not perfectly flat. Look at that, we got a beautiful image. If you didn't get a beautiful image, you could always use a pen and you could fill in any issues. Now this has a pair of glasses, so I'm going to stamp that on too. Just like this. Let's see, I'm going to try to keep my head out of the way. I always want to look straight down when I'm doing this, but I don't want to get my head in the way, so I'm going to try to just not overlap the mustache. Alright, and then I'm going to use a pen, and I'm going to just kind of add a little detail to the nose and draw on some eyebrows and that good stuff. So I'm just going to do like a little, like kind of center nose bulb and nostrils. And I'm going to draw some, you know, Groucho Marx eyebrows. You remember those glasses? Those like joke glasses? They would have like a dark blue glasses. I guess they were Groucho Marx glasses. And they would have a, like a nose and a mustache attached. That's what I'm thinking of with these. And then I'm just going to give him some wiggly, wavy hair. Right to the outside edge of the hat. I'm gonna do the same over here. Give him those nice Kenny Rogers curls. I think that's Kenny Rogers. Islands in the Stream. You know who I'm talking about. Alright, there, that looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to color these with our markers. It's a good idea to just give it a real quick blast with your heat tool or give it a few minutes to dry. I'm hitting this with a heat tool. My gosh, you would not believe how long it takes me to design a card. I've been working on these 2 cards all day. It always takes me longer when I'm going to live narrate because I have to get everything all figured out and practice so that when I do it, you know, for reals, then I am I'm not messing up. We're going to start, just grab 2 shades of red, like a dark red and a medium red. These happen to be the, ooh, what are they? Cherry Cobbler mix from Stampin' Up. I haven't used these in a while, and I thought, oh, that's great. That's a nice rich Santa Claus red. And I'm just going to go over and color the whole thing with a lighter red. Red is a tricky color to blend, so coloring everything with your lighter color first works a little bit better because it keeps the paper wet and then you can blend into it. If you're using a marker paper or a cardstock that tends to be bleedy, then just go within the lines a little bit and it can always bleed out if it needs to. You know, I think the best cardstock to use is whatever you're used to because you know how it's going to behave. Oh, I just said you know a million times. Somebody's going to leave me a bad comment about that. You say like too much. You say too much. Yeah, well, you try this. You try this job. It's not easy. Okay, and then if you want to blend those 2 colors together, if they feel a little too choppy at the edges, just kind of go over the edges with a lighter color. And that's really all you need to do. But the reason I want to do this is because there's another trick I want to show you, and that involves a colorless blender. And I would use a brush tip if you have it. And what you're going to do is you're going to dot. You're going to go and you're going to dab with a colorless blender. Not too close to the edge though, because it might bleed out and like give you feathering at the edge. But you're just going to tap, and what this is going to do is it's going to kind of lighten. Everywhere you tap with the marker, it's going to lighten it a little bit. It's going to leave these little lightened dots, and it will give you a nice textured, felty textured look. And if you have any red on the tip, just scribble it on like on a scrap of paper to clean it. Use a couple scribbles will do the trick. And all your alcohol markers are going to play good together. I got Blick Studio, I got Stampin' Up, I got Azure from Royal Land Nickel, I got Copic, I got Art and Fly, I got Blick Studio, you know, I got all kinds, and they all work just fine together. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is the beard. And I've got a couple shades of cool gray for this. And I'm going to start in with my lightest cool gray number 1 or cool gray 10%, depending on what brand you have. Generally, that's how they're rated. And I'm going to throw in a pretty generous amount of shadow. I'm looking at what little bits of beard are underneath. What's overlapping. I'm not shading the part that's overlapping. I'm going to hit the stuff that's kind of underneath. And I'm not coloring everything in. I just want kind of that silver sheen, you know? And then I'll be doing the darker colors on top. And when you're doing something white, this is a little bit easier way to do it because if I started with my darkest and then blended out with them in my medium and my light, which I usually do, that would that could end up giving me more dark than I want. So if I do this way, where I go with my light, then I go with my medium, then I go with my dark, for a lighter object, it works a little bit better, or an object that I want to blend out to white. So there's a little tip for you. Anytime you're working on something and you're thinking you have a real pale color, you want to blend it out to white, or you're doing a white object, which you'd be, you know, again, blending out to white. It's easier if you go light to dark and kind of build up that way. If you have a nice light shade, it works really well. And you can see I'm using different brands. I'm using Copic and Blick Studio for this. I think, you know, if you want a really high quality marker, and you can't afford Copics or you don't want to spend that kind of price, I would definitely recommend Blick Studio. They're the closest duplication to Copic I've ever found. And there are markers that are cheaper that I definitely recommend. But as far as like really being a close competitor to Copic, these definitely fit the bill. So now I'm doing my darkest. I'm just kind of hitting the top edge of all those little shadows that I put in there, but not doing that much. And that's just going to keep it from getting overwhelmingly gray. It's going to still have the appearance of being a white beard. And take your time with this. I mean, I'm going quickly because it's like 6 o'clock at night and I'm thinking, man, I really hope my husband's making dinner because I made a couple loaves of sourdough bread. That's probably what my kids are eating right now. Oh, the eyebrows. I forgot to do the eyebrows. I'll just go into that medium. For the skin tones, I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to use a couple Art and Flies, number 26, number 27. So most of the cheaper art markers go with the same numberings. 26, you'll see that in Ohuhu. You'll see that in Arctics. You'll see it in so many different brands. 27, that's a pink. And then I've got this darker shadow that is E31 from Copic. It's called Brick Beige. So I'm going to start off with my lightest color here too, just because it's a little bit easier. And this is, you know, not a huge area. And I'm going to go in and color everything with this 26. Oh, and by the way, I realized that like the Shin Hand Touch marker refills match those less expensive markers, as do the Art and Fly refills. So if you need to get a refill ink, those numbers should match if you have like one of those brands I mentioned. Now I'm going to go in with the pink. This is a YR27. Let's put that on the cheeks, little tip of the nose too. I'm going to go in with the Brick Beige, which is a little bit darker. Get under on the side of the nose, under the forehead. I'm a little crazy with those eyebrows. That's alright. We know it's Santa. And then I am going to blend it back out with that pale color, just hit the edges of everything. It'll be a little bit lighter when it dries, so we're good there. And now what I'm going to do is the glasses, and I've got a couple shades of blue for that. Oh, you know what, before I do that, I think I'll do the texture on the hat, because that will give me a little chance for the ink to dry on the face before I do the glasses. So we're going to do the brush tip if you have it. If not, you can use the bullet tip, no prob. And we're just going to dot, and this is my lightest color, and I'm just going to dot around the edges and the bottom of the pom-pom. I'm going to dot around the edges, and I'm going to bring those dots in pretty far, about 1/3 of the way in on each side. And I'm dotting because I want that fluffy texture. It's kind of like what we did with the with our colorless blender on the red. I'm going to bring that right across there too. Now we'll go in with our medium tone, which is a Cool Gray 3 or Cool Gray 30% if you're using like Prismacolor markers. And we're not going to go over quite as far. We'll go about 1/4 of the way in with that color. We're just stippling here. And then we will do our darker color, which is a Cool Gray 40%. I like it when they do the percentages, like when they number their grays like that. Most marker companies do, some don't. Like I don't think Arteza does. But I like it when they do that because it really makes sense when you're coloring stuff. Oh, I forgot to do this over here. Same thing. You know, you just do biggest area is going to be the lighter color, then it's going to be the medium, then the smallest amount will be your darker color. One of the best ways to get started in markers is to have a good set of grays, because you can always glaze over with lighter colors. Alright, now to do the glasses, we're going to need two like kind of navy, well we got kind of like a medium blue, a dark denim-y blue, and we got a clear blender. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the medium blue, and we are going to kind of color the bottom half with that. Maybe a little bit higher. And then we're going to leave a sliver of white, and we're going to do the top. Now we're going to do the dark. These are the Azure markers. This is blue 14 and that was blue 6. This one's more navy, the other one is a little bit more of like a periwinkle kind of color. Apologies for all of the noises going on. Just try to make them the same on each side. It was quieter earlier, but man, I could not get my cards to come together today. Alright. And then what we're going to do is take the clear blender using the chisel end, and we are going to go back and forth, and we are going to lift off some of that color, and that's going to give us a that kind of metallic reflective sunglasses look. But there's a lot of options with this set because you've got a hat, you've got a beard. I'm going to soften them on the center a little bit, looks a little too bright. You know, there's a lot of options here with this because, you know, you could just use the hat, you could just use the beard, you could just use a sentiment, you could just use the glasses like on a Harry Potter card or something like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is some stenciling. This is dry in a flash. Alcohol markers are dry in a flash. This stencil here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our mask on. Don't forget to do that because it's going to like, you'll be so sad because you will ink over your beautiful coloring. So we're going to set our mask down here. Line it up best you can. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to do is lay down a light green, and this is freshly cut grass from Lawn Fawn. It's kind of like a lime green. And I'm going to use a blender brush for this, but you can use whatever you like. If you like to use a blending foam, that's totally fine. That'll work just dandy. I find these brushes are really easy. I used to use a color dusters a lot from Judy Kins, and I do still like them, but they leave a little bit of like almost a burlap texture in the background, which is pretty. It doesn't bother me at all. But I definitely like that I can have these in a jar because of the handles. It just is a little bit handier for me to store. So, and I really do like the effect. So I tend to grab for these a lot more often than foams or other tools, you know, depending on what I want to do. We're going to do some stenciling in a second. I prefer a different, I prefer a different tool for that. I bent my mask and got ink on the pom-pom. Son of a gun. Sorry, Santa. Darn it. Alright. Okay. Don't let me forget to tell you what that stencil is going to be good for, but I'll have to give you a little warning, so I want you to make sure the kids are out of the room before I do that. Now we're going to lay our stencil down, and we want to make sure that we can see our entire panel through there. So, oh, by the way, this is a 5x7 card. Let me zoom out a bit. This is a 5x7 card. This is 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. This panel is like 3 3/4 by 5.5. This one's like 3 by 5. I think. Maybe it's a little bit smaller, but you know, just kind of graduating down from that, you can have whatever sizes you want, just to kind of give you an idea. This is a 6 by 6 stencil, so I'm just making sure that I can see around all of the stuff there, so I can. So I'm not going to have like a weird hard edge. I want to make sure that that stencil, those shapes are going to go all the way to the edge of my card. So now I'm actually going to switch to a different ink pad and a different blending tool. This is a little mushroom blender from Local King. I'm going to give it a spritz with water. This is like just a dense foam, kind of like a makeup applicator. If you have a makeup sponge, that would work. And then I'm just going to pounce it on my ink pad, and I'm just gonna pounce. This is my favorite blender for stenciling. There's no hard edges because it's like a mushroom, which is super nice for stenciling, because then you don't get those awkward edges. I need all the help I can get, guys. Sorry about my hand being in the way, but I've gotta, you know, I gotta get the ink down. I think that's good. Besides, I moved my stencil, so you could tape it down. Oh yeah, that's fine. And I'm gonna put this out of reach and put this back in this little container before I get it all over my hands. All right, and then if we remove our mask, other than our unfortunate pom-pom incident, we are pretty good. Now I do have I had my mask off a little bit, or actually it was probably because when I made my mask, I had to hand draw the hair. So what I think I'll do is grab, you know what? Let me see, what could I do there? I think I could use this as a watercolor. I'm just going to press that onto the edge of a thingamabobber and pick up the ink with a brush of questionable origin. Look at that. And then pick up a little dark green. There we go. We'll fill that right in as it gets noisier in my basement. But you guys say you like the live narrated stuff. I really hope you do. Probably no one's going to watch it because they'll see how long this darn video is. And they'll be like, nope, not going to happen, lady. It's 2 days before Thanksgiving. I gotta cook. But, you know, I figure a lot of people are staying home and, you know, they'll be glad to have something to watch. I'm bothered by that. Oh, gel pen. Let's do that. Let's find a gel pen and clean that right up. Look at that. This is what you do. I might need 2 coats because it might bleed through the gel pen. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For right now, we're good. Right now it's fine. If you want to ink the edges, go for it. I didn't on the other one, but what the heck. I like to live on the edge. Alright, we're going to set this aside and hopefully not set anything on it. Okay, now we're going to prepare our card base. Now, it would behoove you to wash your hands at this stage. I'm not going to wash my hands. So, I might get ink on my background. I will try not to. So, I've got pattern paper. It's one of those beautiful pattern papers. It's pretty on both sides. What are you going to do? I chose the green side. You know, it's a cross you got to bear when you buy double-sided paper. But this is from the Dear Santa pack that I was so excited to find at Joann's. Actually, it wasn't even on the shelf. I checked online before I went into shop because I needed a couple things. And I saw that it was in stock, so I had to go back and get it for me because it wasn't anywheres on the floor. Now I'm going to put this centered and a little up high. I wanted really kind of bold graphic patterns to go with my cool Santa Claus, so that's why I went with these. And then we can stick down our Santa Claus. alcohol markers bleed through the back, in case you didn't know, so don't be alarmed when that happens. It totally should. There's a lot of affordable markers out there these days, which is really nice, especially if you're, you know, you're not sure if you like it, you want to, you know, try it a little bit cheaper. We're also going to need to stamp sentiment, and on that we're going to do, just on some punched circles, I punched 3 circles from cardstock. I think these are 1.25 inches, and I am just going to stamp, ho ho ho, I'm going to do 2 in red and 1 in green. Get a wash between colors or you will make mud. Using VersaFine Clear. That's really great for sentiments because it's really crisp and you can emboss with it. I embossed the sentiments on the other cards. And you can actually watercolor with it, and you can do alcohol markers with it. However, I get a little impatient, and it is a pigment ink and it needs to dry a little bit more. So they're not my pick for watercoloring or markering, but I do really like them for doing sentiments. I like the regular VersaFine as well. The VersaFine, VersaColor stuff. Very hybrid ink. So they dry a little faster than pigment ink, but they have a lot of the same properties. Alright, those can be set aside as well. Hopefully my fingers are clean. Alright, so we're going to do a fun technique here. These are these ribbons. They're like ribbons of gemstones. And I just did 1 row here, and then I cut a couple out and I did 2 little corners, and I thought, oh, that'd be pretty if we did, like, instead of that, did this with the red and then did a row of the yellow, or gold. So that's what we're going to do here. And I actually did red underneath this, and I'm like, what a waste, because I ended up covering it with my sentiment. So you just need to do the on the top sides there. So let's see, I should have enough yellow from being cut before. Yeah, so we'll do that first. It's a long side. Now you do have to trim them apart. You could use a craft knife or your fine tip scissors. I use my Cutter Bee scissors a lot because they will cut pretty much any sort of card making, scrapbooking supply pretty accurately, pretty well. I don't have a great system for storing these, so, and these are available at Top Flight. They have a bunch of different colorways. I don't have a great system for storing these after I open them up, so what I try to do is just kind of keep them in a basket and use them up. And with the holidays, you know, you use so many shimmery, sparkly things that it shouldn't be too tough to make use of them. As long as you know where they are, as long as you keep them handy. I don't like to keep the rhinestone supplies, the self-adhesive rhinestones, too long because I do find that after a while the adhesive like just kind of gives out on them, and then they don't stick very well. And that's not these in particular. I just like overall I find that to be the case with self-adhesive rhinestone products. Now this is probably going to be a smidgen longer than what I need. Well, that's pretty. So I'll just trim off the excess, and I can stick it back to the release sheet if I want, or I can add it on the other card. Wow, that was way less of a struggle, knock on wood, than the last one that I did. I'll stick it on the packaging for now. We'll do one over there. Is this as tedious for you as it is for me? You've probably had a couple glasses of eggnog by now. If you're watching this on Thanksgiving, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. It's a crazy year. Well, this is going to come out, this is Monday. Then when I'm recording this, it's going to go up on Tuesday. But I know a lot of people don't have, you know, time during the week to watch your videos, but if you're home alone, I'm with you in spirit. I think a lot of people are having a hard holiday season, and I hope this brings some cheer and comfort and joy to your day. Alright, I am going to stick this down on this right where those 2 pieces of cardstock meet. And I'll trim off the excess. The reason I started that up a little heavy, a little high, I think I pulled one of those little rhinestones out of position, so it was kind of off, so I didn't want to have an awkward rhinestone if I could help it. They have like a ribbon of adhesive. It's almost like a double-sided tape under there. And then, let's see. I've got 2 short pieces. I might as well do the bottom on this one because I think some of that will show beyond our sentiment. Sorry if I pulled that out of frame. Alright. Alright, I'm just going to adhere those 2 and meet you back up. I think I'll adhere those 2 and I'll do the red frame as well because my gosh, we'll be here all night. So I came up with this time-saving tip here, of course off camera. My brilliance cannot fully shine. I took an X-Acto knife and I sliced just like put it down on my thing. Well, I can show you here. Take an X-Acto knife and you can slice these apart so much easier and quicker than doing it with scissors. So there's my time-saving hack for you today. And they are much easier to manage that way because then they've got their own backing. You don't have to unpeel the whole thing to get to the strand that you want. Now, I mean, you can use these all together. They're designed to be put on all together, but I prefer the look of just like a more subdued bling than a in-your-face bling. Which is, I know, ironic. I seem to be the more in-your-face bling type of person, wouldn't you think? But honestly, I prefer a more subdued bling. And I like how I can just kind of, and then I don't waste because I can snip at the end and it's got a backing on it. I don't have the awkward, how many of these rolls of this stuff have I used? Finally just now coming to this brilliant realization. I think that's kind of pretty. I like that. It's very like marquee lights looking. Isn't that nice? Okay. Oh, foam square time, guys. I was going to do the foam squares off camera. I think I probably should. I'm going to put foam squares on the back of these. I'm going to put 2 layers of foam squares on the back of this one so it pops up a little bit higher. So we'll see you on the other side. Alright, these guys I have 1 layer and these I have 2 layers. So this middle one I've got 2 layers, can you see? And I got 1 layer on the red hose and 2 layers on the green hoe. And then my channel gets demonetized. Oh, you might as well send the kids out of the room now. Don't even wait for the end of the video. Okay, so we've got ho ho ho. I think this one go a little bit lower because I put those ones up a little bit higher. Alright, and then for a final touch on this guy, we are going to do some glittering. I've got this Liquitex Gloss Medium Varnish. Honestly, you can use any glue you want. I just wanted something kind of glossy. Sometimes glues can be a little bit hazy and matte, and I really wanted something glossy here, so I'm just putting out a drop. You don't need a lot. I'm going to wipe my brush off here so I don't introduce any water to it. I'm going to use a flat brush for the ho ho ho. Make sure you give that plenty of time to dry, and you can put on a pretty thick glossy layer if you want to. In fact, if you wanted it real glossy, you could use glossy accents or any of those, you know, doming glues, you know, like Crystal Effects, glossy accents, any of those things. Anything that's meant to look like glossy gloss. Gloss, that's not a product. But you know what I mean, right? And then I'm going to take a small round brush and do the pom-pom and hopefully hide some of that green issue that I've got going on there. It'll be fine. Santa got a little grass stain on his pom-pom. I don't know what he was doing. Probably fixing the sled on the ground, fixing the sled. Of course there'd be snow on the ground. Maybe he was running the sled on the grass. My brother-in-law did that. Took a snowmobile across the field on the grass. I'm like, I didn't think they could run on the grass. That can't be good for it. What do I know? I don't snowmobile. Okay, now what we're going to do is the most messy part of this whole project, and that's use this guy. Oh, I bought and paid for it. I'm using it. I do this actually in the trash can. I hold the card in the trash can and I spritz it because it does make such a mess. It's actually better if you open it up a little bit more, but you can direct it. I think you can actually find these sold for like cosmetics, like for like foundation powder. I can't imagine how much of that foundation powder or pressed powder you would breathe in if you use this. But anyway, it's messy. It's kind of fun. My craft space is in the basement, so it's not going to be all over the house. But it's pretty. And there, I should have just, you know, the thing is you don't get that much excess. I mean, it does go everywhere, but it's like, it's not even like, you don't have enough excess that it's worth like putting back in the jar. So, you know, it's all right. I'm liking it the more I use it. But there is our funky Santa. And we have our Funky Season's Greetings Santa boot shoe card. And there you have it. Okay, send your kids out of the room because I'm going to tell you what else you can use that boot stencil for. They gone? Okay, so these are kind of fun. You can put these out, so Christmas Eve, after the kids go to bed, you could sprinkle flour over them. And you could make little footprints all over your house. You could make reindeer ones too if you wanted to cut some out of cardstock. So I thought that was really kind of cute. Flour would work really well for that. You could do glitter, but I don't know if glitter would stay put. I think flour would. Just make sure it doesn't get wet or you're going to have such a mess. But it's just kind of a fun idea if you want to kind of put a little bit of that magic for your little ones in your home. And other than that, we are done. I want to thank our sponsor. I don't want to zoom out too far. Holy cow, if you saw the mess on my table, you would just be appalled. I want to thank our sponsor, TopFlightStamps.com. I will have all the supplies I used linked down below. The stencils, the stamps, all that good jazz. Check it out. They have a lot of really fun Christmas products. The sentiment set I used for the season's greetings, that is on sale as well. And they find really, really cool stuff all over the world and bring it home to us here in the United States so we can craft with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this epically long video for 2 cards. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Until next time, happy crafting!